Oh, Lord. Again. Again. Nothing new, nothing changed, same old shit. Same old fucking shit.
Okay, so full disclosure, I actually can't believe that I'm making this video because once again, I find myself dealing with backlash simply for having some damn common sense. If you didn't know, I recently reacted to Heated Rivalry on my channel, and throughout my watch, I made some comments that some people passionately disagreed with. I got called bitter, uneducated, racist, and I got told that I lack empathy and I'm media illiterate. Now this video isn't aimed at those who have respectfully disagreed with me or offered me a different perspective. I want that to be crystal clear. There was an incident where one of my viewers thought I was referring to them in a recent video and subsequently deleted all the comments they had left on my videos, and it made me feel bad. To that viewer, I hope you see this and realize it was just a misunderstanding. To everyone else, please understand that if we've ever had a productive, reasonable interaction, even in disagreement, I am not talking about you in this video, nor in any other video where I am responding to comments. Listen, I have no problem with people respectfully disagreeing with me, but once you get into the territory of attacking my media literacy and essentially calling me stupid because you want to suck fictional dick so badly, that's when we start to enter what I call the "you got me fucked up" phase. But clearly, a lot of you are new here and are unfamiliar with my game, so let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Ty, and I never cared about being disliked on the internet over a TV show. You may be wondering what exactly warranted the responses I received. Well, in short, it's because I made remarks about certain aspects of Shane and Ilia's relationship being toxic and also stated that I would personally never put myself in that kind of situation. Yes, people really get upset when you simply state you wouldn't do something, as if that's some kind of slight against them personally when we're talking about a work of fiction. But let's get into the meat of what this video is about. A lot of you seem to have it in your minds that because two people aren't in a romantic relationship, that the relationship can't be toxic. You also seem to have it in your minds that someone has to have negative intentions in order to be considered toxic. If any professionals see this, feel free to correct me, but I don't think that's how it works. See, from my understanding, anyone can be toxic to anyone, whether the relationship is familial, platonic, romantic, or even just a fuck buddy situation. And the destructive behavior in question can be perpetuated unconsciously, meaning without intent. Ilia and Shane did not need to be in a relationship for some of their actions to be labeled as toxic. And maybe it's the word toxic itself that throws some of you off, but I don't think it would be that different if I referred to some of their behavior as bad or destructive instead. Someone did suggest that certain actions characters took should be regarded as petty instead of toxic, but I don't feel like that word does justice to the actual harm that can be caused by the actions particular characters took. Whatever the case, the bottom line is many of their actions did not help their situation, no matter what adjective you want to use to describe it, and that is my overall point. Now those of you with common sense may be thinking, well yeah, that's obvious if you watch the show. Well, common sense isn't so goddamn common. I find it incredibly interesting that this continues to be a trend with me when I give an opinion on something that feels so blatantly obvious as pertains to the relationship dynamics on these queer TV shows. Some of you may be aware of my dealings with the interview with the vampire fandom stemming from the hate video I did on Lestat at the end of 2024. It caused a bit of discourse, and while I received overwhelming support, it was also coupled with a lot of hate. But that doesn't matter to me. My opinion on that character has remained what it is until that show gives me a reason to change my mind. I believe I'm dealing with a similar situation here. The difference though is Shane and Ilia's development greatly differs from Lestat and Louis by the end of each show's first season. Shane and Ilia become a lovely couple by the end. That isn't the case for Lestat and Louis. Their unresolved love story is still being told with the upcoming third season, and while Shane and Ilia's story isn't over, the conclusion of season 1 left me satisfied with their development. But that's the thing, they developed. They had to grow into what they are, and there were quite a few missteps along the way, but God forbid you call people's favorite characters out on the bullshit they do. And let's make something clear. Having flawed but relatable characters on your show is a good thing. Now, I'm not someone who particularly believes characters need to be relatable to enjoy media. That's kind of the boat I'm in with Heated Rivalry. More on that later. But you should not take it as a slight to the character writing when criticisms are levied against the characters. The whole point of the show is to demonstrate that these people are not perfect when dealing with the complexities of a difficult situation. And just because we can understand that they're dealing with a lot, that doesn't mean we can't also call them out on their bullshit. Okay. Let's get into this. If you haven't seen the show before, spoilers ahead. Also, very minor spoilers for Interview with the Vampire because I do talk about it a little bit in this video as well. I want to preface this by saying I don't believe Shane and Ilia are toxic as people. They just exhibited some toxic traits within their dynamic. With Shane, there's a little bit of a caveat, but we'll get there. Anyway, we all have certain character flaws that do not positively serve us, but we continue to perpetuate them anyway, unconsciously or otherwise. For example, if you're quick to snap at minor inconveniences or you're emotionally unavailable with your partner in spite of them begging you to open up, I don't believe that makes you a bad or toxic person necessarily, but it does mean you have a toxic trait that isn't serving you or the relationships you have in a positive way. Now let's start with Ilia. I think most people have more of a natural tenderness towards Shane because he himself is a tender soul, but there are plenty of moments in the show that demonstrate Ilia's caring heart, particularly in the last couple of episodes when he's opening up to Shane, wanting to make meals for him, and supporting him when he finally talked to his parents. I really loved that shit. I don't think Ilia's a bad guy, but I do think he was a jerk for a long time, and yes, he has his reasons, but he was a jerk nonetheless. The biggest red flags for me came with the bathroom scene in episode 2 and the club scene in episode 4. In the bathroom scene, we have Shane desperately begging Ilia to say what it is he wants from him. This confrontation is set 6 months since the last time these two have spoken. Ilia has been ignoring Shane, and even though they aren't in a committed relationship at this point, it's still greatly affecting Shane in a way that he's trying to better understand. I mean, this man is on the verge of tears, and what is Ilia's response?
I want you to suck my dick.
Oh, fuck you. You are unbelievable.
Look, we can have all the understanding in the world for Ilia's circumstances and how he copes, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he just dismissed the crying man in front of him with, "I want you to suck my dick." Like, even on the most basic human level, fuck the romantic aspect because there is no romance in this, just a very basic human level. Someone comes crying to you and you just say, "Hey, shut the fuck up and give me a little sucky sucky," and then Shane just shuts the fuck up and is instead like, "No, you give me a little sucky sucky." Hello? Why don't any of these damsels know how to stand on business? Hun, Louis? Anyway, then y'all try to flip this and act like it's some tender moment when the musical score hits and Ilia's being a bit softer. He's still talking about sucking dick. There was no meaningful answer given. He manipulated that situation to deflect from what was being asked of him, even if it was under the pretense of fear and self-preservation. Why are you guys scared to acknowledge that? This is part of his character arc. He uses sex to avoid acknowledging his true feelings, even if it's at the other person's expense, i.e. not giving Shane a proper answer. That is toxic. Sorry, I don't know what you want me to say. The other instance of toxicity that really sticks out to me is the club scene. People really love and hype this scene, and I do understand why, but the only thing going through my mind when I was watching this was how toxic these two were being. Ilia was going out of his way to provoke Shane to jealousy by dancing with a woman when he knew Shane was watching him. Granted, this came off the heels of Shane going public with Rose and him abruptly abandoning Ilia when Ilia said his name for the first time, and we will address that. But in what world is it not toxic to go out of your way to provoke the person you love to jealousy, regardless of what they made you feel? And yes, they were definitely in love by this point, so don't come to me with the, "well, they didn't owe each other anything because they weren't together" nonsense. Whether they owe you loyalty or not, you're still making the choice to deliberately hurt the person you love. That isn't just pettiness, that's toxic, that's bad, that's destructive, period. How is this controversial? Now let's move on to Shane. He's a bit of a special case because apparently he's on the spectrum, and that's the caveat I was referring to earlier. I'm no expert on autism, but let's assume his autism is playing a role in his own lack of communication skills. That is not his fault. However, when he is dealing with someone who is also not communicating effectively, yes, it can lead to a toxic situation. Let's bring it back to Shane leaving Ilia when things were getting a bit too real. He freaked out not only because things were getting deeper between him and Ilia, but because he is still coming to terms with his sexuality in the midst of it. Him getting with Rose didn't help any, especially because they went public with it, which in turn prompted Ilia to provoke Shane to jealousy as a get back. So now we have this giant escalation because no one is speaking, and when attempts to speak are made, they get shut down. So we have two people who, within this situation, do not have their shit together, and both of them shut down when things feel too real. We have one whose defense mechanism is sex and will use sex to avoid emotional vulnerability, and he also goes out of his way to provoke negative emotions out of the person he loves. Complement that with the fact that it's literally dangerous for him to come out because of the culture of his country, while also dealing with a complicated family situation. While on the other hand, we have someone who hasn't fully accepted his sexuality, abandoned the person he loves because he didn't know how to deal with the deeper connection developing, and is in a relationship with a woman he doesn't want to be with, which really had the potential to screw her over as well had she developed deeper feelings for him. And mind you, to bring all of this home, not a single non-surface level conversation has been had between these two when they are in love with each other. And you people have convinced yourselves this isn't the makings of a toxic and or destructive situation? Did we all watch the same show? I've seen people try to use their age as a scapegoat, but that can only work for so long. By the time we hit 2014 on the show, they're officially around my age. We have Kip and Scott as great examples of what a healthier navigation of this circumstance looks like. And yes, they're in their 30s while Shane and Ilia are in their 20s. I get it. Younger people are gonna do younger people shit. That still doesn't absolve one of personal accountability. They are no longer 18 at this point. We can't hold on to that excuse. Now, some of you might still be saying, well, why should we expect any more from them? Their relationship up to that point was just them hooking up a few times a year. Okay, if you're gonna pull that card, I'd rebuttal and say then it doesn't make sense for their feelings for each other to be so deep. I mean, if they're just fuck buddies and there's no other basis for their relationship, at what point did they fall in love with each other and why? They didn't have any meaningful conversations in all that time and only met for sex, yet we're supposed to believe they fell for each other during that time. So if you're gonna say, well, it's unfair to hold them to that standard because they weren't anything serious for all those years, then the integrity of the entire show has to come into question, because if sex was all it took for these two to fall for each other, that's a horrible narrative to paint. Repeated casual hookups does not equal love, nor does it paint an adequate picture for how they fell in love. Now, do I personally believe that there are little details planted during those years that can explain why they fell for each other? Sure, but you cannot sit there and be mad when I call them out for their shit communication and defend it with the fact that they weren't serious while simultaneously believing they loved each other. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. The bottom line is, if they loved each other, then they needed better communication. And the kicker is, it does eventually get there. They prove that even with a troubled background, and even if you're on the spectrum, you can overcome certain things that are holding you back. Yes, it's a show and things can be dramatized or made convenient, but art imitates life. This is the whole point of the show, to document their journey. The series is showing us what not to do in a similar situation, but Shane and Ilia, despite their hardships, reached the point where they actually talk to each other and exchange I love yous. That's what I wanted. That's what we all wanted. So what the fuck is the actual issue with me expressing what I wanted from them during the reactions? That's the point of a reaction, to say what I'm thinking as I watch, and then I'm later vindicated when I get what I was asking for all along. I think a lot of you are way too used to reactors not saying what they actually feel and sugarcoating things just to come off as more agreeable with their audience. I could have easily done that and hopped on camera going, oh, the poor little babies just don't know how to talk to each other, ooh ooh. But no, I'm not doing that. I want them to talk. Me wanting that isn't a disregard for the challenges challenges they face to get there. I just think grown adults should be able to fucking get there. And again, they did, but apparently that's a controversial take. Some of you believe I was too hard on them in my videos, and I'm sorry for wanting adults to act like adults, I guess. The funny part about this is, I'll put any amount of money on it that y'all are not this gracious with people in real life. So why do we make exceptions when it comes to fiction? Why are you so intent on infantilizing adult characters as if they shouldn't be taking responsibility for what they do? Yes, knowing their stories allows us to empathize with them. That does not supersede them taking accountability for their actions. We all have stories. That doesn't mean everyone gets a pass for disrespecting you just because they may be going through a lot.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
Clock that T.
Clock it.
Art is often a reflection of reality, and this show is no different. In real life, I would never stand for someone not opening up to me or being rude and dismissive when I make attempts to get to know them, or at least gain a better understanding of what that person wants from me. Much less am I tolerating that over the course of 10 years. That's completely asinine. It took nearly a decade for these two to have a real conversation. No, it doesn't matter that they were just hooking up. I've had hookups. I still made it a point to treat the person like they were a person. Talk to them. Treat them with dignity. I've done this with one-night stands. But you want to cape for Ilia and Shane and act like it's not absurd that they didn't truly open up after multiple hookups over the course of a decade when they were clearly in love with each other? Please get the fuck out of my face.
Electric chair.
It was a similar thing with Scott and Kip when I made a comment that it was kinda shitty of Kip to avoid his father when he was with Scott. A few people hopped into the comments to defend him with, well, he's doing it because he doesn't want to lie to his father. Cool, it's still shitty. How is avoiding his father any better? And someone had the gall to say Kip was forced into keeping that secret. I'm sorry, what? That is a grown man who made a grown man decision. No one forced him to stay with Scott and pay his father dust. It's criticisms like that, which I feel are completely fair, that people feel the need to come and defend as if I'm unaware of the circumstances surrounding the decisions being made. I can understand Kip being afraid to reveal what's going on to his father. I can also understand that it's fucked up anyway to hardly talk to his father at all while he's with Scott. Again, this is a grown man. He could have easily just said, yeah, dad, there's something going on, but I'm not ready to talk about it. And I'm sure his very loving, very caring father would have understood that. Yes, it's a show, and yes, they need to create tension and drama, but again, me pointing out decisions that could have been made isn't a slight on the writing. I'm watching people make decisions that I myself would not make, and I am voicing as much. That's the point of a reaction. You are getting my reaction. Now, I'm about to get a little bit more deep with y'all, and I really hate to have to bring race up, but let me quickly address the fact that I was accused of being racist since we want to go there. I don't know if that comment stems from me emphasizing that I prefer melanated men, which doesn't mean I'm closed off to other people. Y'all just don't know what the word preference actually means, or if it was the fact that I stated that y'all will let pretty white boys get away with murder. Either way, neither of those things are fucking racist. I am a black man who prefers black men. I am also a black man watching a queer TV show that I do not relate to beyond having been a closeted gay boy once upon a time. My lived experience at the crossroads of intersectionality, being black, gay, and not coming from privilege has built me up to not stand for a lot of bullshit when it comes to the relationships in my life. I do not relate to the leads in this show in a way that many of you might, and thus me calling them on their shit can feel like I'm being too hard on them, because many of you see yourselves in them. But let's not act like I was saying anything unreasonable. Let's not act like it's the craziest thing in the world to expect adults to overcome their emotional blockages and be better for it. And while we're at it, let me say this, and I might actually ruffle feathers with this one, but fuck it, we ball. The show is good, but it is not the best show out. It's not even the best gay show out.
Yup.
That title still belongs to Interview with the Vampire as far as I'm concerned, but I'm seeing people use the word groundbreaking to describe Heated Rivalry, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. And you know what? Let's bring it back to the conversation about relating to characters. Relating to characters isn't a requirement to enjoy a show, but it certainly helps a damn lot. One of the central characters in Interview with the Vampire is a queer black man whose story begins in the 1910s, a deviation from the source material, but in my opinion, a damn great great one. They expertly weaved in Louis' struggles being a black man with his struggles being a vampire. Add in the fact that he's also gay and it's a total damn hot mess. Louis was a character I truly felt connected to. You know, minus the vampirism, I don't know nothing about that. But just as a queer black man watching another queer black man on TV navigate the complexities of his everyday life, only for things to become way more complicated when the literal fucking devil entered his life, that is a story that resonated with me heavily. There are not many mainstream projects with gay black men as leads, people I can truly see myself in as I watch. To me, Interview with the Vampire is more groundbreaking, and not even just because of that, but the story itself, the acting, the camera work, the characters, the dramatics, the love, the despair, the yearning, the lore. All of these things come together to make Interview with the Vampire the masterpiece that it is. Heated Rivalry simply cannot compare in my eyes, especially when the main problem for the leads is the fact that they simply refuse to talk things out. That's just not as compelling to me, and that is okay. I'm not here to downplay how the show has impacted or resonated with anyone out there. If you relate, great. If you think it's the best representation you've ever seen, awesome. But personally, I just truly cannot fathom people saying this show is groundbreaking or one of the best shows they've ever watched. I genuinely feel like I'm missing something. Yes, the acting is great. Yes, the camera shots are great. Yes, there are some great emotionally driven and powerful moments. But the greatest? Nah. Please feel free to break down what was actually groundbreaking to you or why this show resonates with you specifically, but to me it was just another forbidden love story with intense sex scenes thrown in. And that's cool, it's based on erotic romance novels, it's still a good show. Now I can maybe understand how it's groundbreaking for straight people. A lot of them are gaining understanding about the difficulties of being in the closet and even how gay sex works, which does help break barriers. But for my fellow gays, is this the only gay show you've ever seen? Have you seen any gay films? Most of them have storylines just like this. Granted, a lot of them don't have happy endings, but even so, I wouldn't call Shane and Ilia getting together in the end groundbreaking. I've seen this story before, many times. Take away the sex scenes, which, let's be clear, the sex scenes were a major pull for this show. Almost everything viral about this show is related to the sex, but take that away and it's just a regular love story about closeted men finding each other, which is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just can't with the glazing as if this has never been done before. Again, if you got something from this, I love that for you. Don't let my opinion sway your love for the show. We're all different people with different life experiences. My experiences have just led me to the conclusion that this show isn't groundbreaking to me, and that's okay. Alright, I think I got it all out. All in all, the show is enjoyable and I had a good time. I really do love where Shane and Ilia ended up by the final episode. They just had to get through the toxic aspects of their situation to get there, and they're ultimately better for it. If you sat through this and still don't agree that they had moments of toxicity or destructive behavior, well, I'm willing to hear you out in the comments, but I'm leaving you with this. I didn't dick ride Lestat. What makes you think I'm gonna dick ride the discount version of him? And that's no shade to Ilia. Like I said, I do love where his character went, but in the early episodes, that's exactly what it was giving. I even commented on that during one of the reaction videos. He really reminded me of Lestat in a way, and especially now with all the people rushing to defend him, it's all too familiar. I am having war flashbacks. But I've done this song and dance before, so feel free to be angry and lash out, but I warn you, it's not gonna make me lose any sleep. So stop being mad at me because your favorite fictional gay boys are always problematic. Okay, until next time, this is Said by Ty, and I said what I said. Bye!